I now want to invite up Andy Brooks. I'm really excited to hear Andy and Cortnie speak. They have been preparing to share this message for a really long time, and it comes out of a place that's very personal to them. And so I think that it's going to be really powerful tonight what the Lord says through them.
All right, so go ahead and repeat after me this sentence. But the greatest of these is love. Your turn.
The greatest of these is love.
Not bad. I think we could do better. Let's try one more time. But the greatest of these is love.
But the greatest of these is love.
All right, so Cortnie's going to talk in just a sec, but we want to do something a little fun and interactive because T-Cell doesn't always get to come and share with you guys on Thursday night. And I think we'd be terrible English teachers if we didn't do something fun. Is that right? I think we know how to have fun. So every Friday in T-Cell we do something, we do a Bible study in our class. We call it a Discovery Bible Study. It's because we love to teach languages, we love to teach communication, but we also love to teach the Bible. And the Bible's the way that God, it's a great way that He communicates with His people, right? And we love communication. So before Cortnie comes up, we're going to just read a passage together. I'm going to read it, you guys are going to listen. We're going to do this T-Cell style, which means that you guys need to practice your pronunciation just a little bit before we begin, okay? So let me explain how we're going to do this. So this is a little something we like to do. We play with the language just a little bit. We're going to warm up those muscles. Speaking, yeah, that's how I exercise mostly. So we're going to repeat the sentence again 4 different ways. We're going to start high and low and then go fast and slow. And then we're going to do something special after that. So you go ahead and listen. I want to say it and then I want you to practice with the partner next to you, okay? So try like this, fast and slow. It's like that little neighborhood kid. I've got one next door that I love, whose voice is never going to change. So say it like this. I love that kid so much. Say it like this. But the greatest of these is love. Try it. You try it with your partner. Not bad, not bad. All right. We're going to go low. You guys are good. We're going to go low now. Think Dwayne Johnson, okay? Let's listen. Listen, listen, listen. But the greatest of these is love. Go ahead, you can go deeper. Go deeper. All right. We're halfway there. Okay, now come back up. Come into your normal register. We're going to say it. Say it normal. We're going to say it as fast as you can. Okay, get ready. But the greatest of these is love. You try it. Nicely done. All right. Now, who remembers The Matrix? Who watched The Matrix in the theater? All 3 of them. Especially the disappointing ones. All right, we're going to do this like The Matrix, or if you prefer, Kung Fu Panda, and we're going to go really slow. So this one's hard. You got to listen. But the greatest of these is love. Okay, you try it. So here's a trick. This is an English trick. In the English language, if we want to speak with emphasis, a little trick is, if we want to speak with emphasis, we just do all 4 of those all at the same time. So, can you do a little high, a little low, a little fast, a little slow, all in the same sentence? Is it possible? All right, I'm going to give you one example, but there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Ready? But, all right, ready? But the greatest of these is love. Okay, you try. With emphasis. All right, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read. I want you to listen and to agree with these words. And believe that there's a love that can overcome impossible odds. That it's a love that we're meant to hold and to share with the entire world, okay? You listen, and there's a chance here at the end for crowd participation, okay? If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to move mountains but have not love, then I am nothing. If I give away all I have and offer up my body to be burned to death but have not love, then I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. It isn't enviable, boastful, arrogant, rude, insisting, irritable, or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it too will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When the perfect one comes, all of these imperfections will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up my childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. Say it with me, baby. But the greatest of these is love. Try it again. But the greatest of these is love.
I want to tell you tonight how I have forgiven and how I love a man who tried to kill my family in a terrorist attack 7 years ago. It was a cold, wintry night filled with voices full of joy around a Christmas tree, and a van with a bomb, and a man with his hand on the trigger. So I have been dreading speaking tonight. Not because I stand amidst my peers, although that is certainly part of it, but because of what I believe God is asking me to talk to you about. I have given much thought to what I am bringing you this evening. I've contemplated not showing up. I've contemplated arranging it for another night. I'm talking about something entirely different. But I know that if I were to do any or all of those things, that I would be in direct disobedience to God. So here I stand in front of you all to talk about something that makes my insides quake. When I think of the love of God and the way I'm going to talk to you tonight about, it makes my body tremble. It is very much like my insides are being shaken by a paint can. And this fear that I have to stand in front of you is a fear that I'm willing to stand up against because of love. And so what I want to say before I share a few stories is that I understand your feelings on this topic and I empathize with your emotions. I watch the news, I read the papers, I understand our reactions, but what I'm asking each of us tonight is that we do not react on these emotions without first taking them to the cross and to God so that He can work in them and give us the boldness we lack to pursue love and not fear. In the last week, the world has been dealing with the deep fear and tragic reality of the times that we live in. When terror is abundant, it sometimes feels like love is nowhere to be seen. But is this not what we are called to, my friends? To unashamed, undeterred, unconditional love? Especially in times like these, when love seems so distant a dream. Tonight I ask that we look through the lens of love and not fear, and that we adjust and we align our hearts with what we see and what we hear. I pray that God would allow us to understand his love and mercy the most that we can, so that we may be the expression of his love and mercy to all his created people. Tonight is about love. Loving when it seems impossible to do so. As many of you know, Andy and I have our hearts set on helping refugees. God spoke this conviction to us last year through our 7-year-old son, Owen. He has been one of the compelling forces for our desire to bring hope to such a hopeless people. Because this conviction started with a child, I felt it only appropriate to tell this first story, from the eyes of a child. In times where our hearts and minds are befuddled with agenda, it can be hard to see the stories on a personal level. This is a very personal story. It relates to every human on some level. It is about a boy's journey of fleeing for his life. It is a story about the birth of love. Mom tells me of how I was born. She says her and Dad traveled a long way back to his home. She was pregnant with me when they arrived. They thought they would have a place to stay while being at Dad's home. Mom says there was no place for them anywhere. They had checked everywhere, but everyone said there was no place for us. Mom knew that I was coming soon, so they asked again. A stranger opened his door to us. He said he had a place. It was uncomfortable, but it was dry and safe. It was there I was born. The first breaths my lungs drew in were filled with the scent of dirt and grass and animals. Mom told me those moments were beautiful. She held me close and covered me in clothes that she had brought with her. She said we were safe. Dad told me of the time we left that place for another place, a place that didn't want us. He told me there was a man killing children and that he was looking for me. Dad said that they were so scared of him that they left in the middle of the night. They grabbed what they could carry and left behind what they couldn't. They traveled far, to a place that was not our home, to a place that didn't want us. They stayed there because it was safer than anywhere else. They wanted me to grow up, to live and give me the best they could give me. It was because they loved me that we stayed there. Dad told me, Jesus, the man who is looking for us, has died. We are moving again. We couldn't go home, though. It was still too dangerous for me. We moved to another place. This is the place I grew up. I am told stories of home. I dream of our home. Some nights I catch the scent of dirt and grass and animals. It is the faintest memory of what home would smell like. Like many people, I'm a refugee living in another place, not my own. The love that was born that night many years ago was born in such a way as to identify with humanity in every way possible. God not only became human, he became human in the most dire of circumstances. Homeless, fleeing for his life, seeking refuge in lands that were not his own, unwanted by the peoples whose lands he inhabited. In the most crucial ways, he empathizes with us, all of us. Not just the Christians, not just the Westerners, but all created people. God showed us through the birth of his son that he was willing to pursue us at any length. He was willing to go to the most difficult route to gain our hearts. He knew it would be no easy task to love us. Time and again we failed him. We turned our sights on other gods. He steadily pursued us. He didn't give up when it got hard. He kept chasing us down. This is the impossible love of God. It is able to empathize with us. Jesus is the only reason that my heart is directed toward refugees. It is because of his life and death and resurrection that I can tell my next story. He is the only reason I can say that the ending of my story is filled with hope and love. This experience in my life transformed my heart on so many levels. It is a story of an impossible love, and without Jesus, it would not be a story of love at all. We were standing in Pioneer Square in Portland, Oregon. It was a cold night. Owen sat on Andy's shoulders as we caroled with hundreds of others. We had made our way to the edge of the square. It was hard to fit my 7-month pregnant body into the crowded corner. But somehow there was just enough room for us to glimpse the tree and drink our homemade hot cocoa. It was a beautiful sight. Voices rang all around us, singing songs about trees and snow and a little baby king. In that moment, surrounded by hundreds of people, there was a sense of heaven on earth. The world was as it should be. I looked at my 2 boys and thought that life was perfect. My corner of the world was full of joy and hope. It wasn't until later that night that I found out that the world that I had thought was so perfect, so full of joy, was in fact incredibly broken. The veil was removed from my eyes, and fear crept into my life like I never imagined it would. Unbeknownst to us, a man had parked a van with a bomb just outside the square. He sat there, waiting for the right moment to push the trigger that would change my world forever. I looked back at that moment, and the news reported the event, and I felt fear choke my heart. The full spectrum of emotion washed over me: anger, grief, anguish, hopelessness, fear, denial. I imagined the scene as it could have been. I replayed it in my mind. I let those thoughts consume me. I lived that moment in my mind as if it actually happened. I could see in my mind my son, my husband, my entire life, everything that meant something to me, gone. I confronted God with this possibility. It was then he spoke directly to the pain that I was feeling. In that moment of confusion, he spoke peace. In that place where my heart harbored anger, he brought love. It was so overwhelming a sensation that it enveloped the other emotions that I had felt. It cradled them. It soothed my soul. The days that followed, the story became clear. The FBI had uncovered this man and secretly planned this mission to bring him out of hiding. They had given him the van with the fake bomb. They caught him just after he tried to detonate the bomb, and it didn't go off. They had taken him in. The city of Portland was enraged. They felt violated. They were furious. A few days after the man's capture, the mosque he attended was burned in an act of revenge. Hate spewed from every station on the news. Through these reactions, God spoke again to my heart. He reminded me of the cross and the people staring up at Jesus. He reminded me of Jesus' reaction: "Father, forgive them." And as I sat there, I remembered that I began praying for that man. I prayed for his family. I prayed for the people that knew him, the people he had betrayed. I prayed for his shame. I prayed for the people that went to that mosque that was burned. My heart became consumed again for this man to come to know Jesus, for everyone involved to know Jesus. I wanted them to grasp the love of God that died for them. It was there that I imagined one day that this man might lead many to know who Jesus is and that his sins could be forgiven. One day, he could be like Paul. The gospel is that good, my friends. Jesus is that good. There's nothing impossible through him. This is the dream I have today. I see it as if it were in front of me, that it is actually happening. I not only love this man, I hope for him. My heart aches for him to know Jesus. That I could meet him later knowing that his eternity was changed through the gospel. So I believe in a love that pursues us. Even when we have walked away, when we have strayed so far that it seems like we will never find our way back. But time and time again, we are reminded that God pursues us. He hopes for us. He dreams for us. He sees the end result and chooses to love us at no small cost to himself. This is the impossible love of God, my friends. It hopes for us. I have a final story for us tonight. It is the story of a blind man. And right now I want to invite you, if you would like to close your eyes and see the story through his eyes. It is a story of redemption. I promise you this story is full of hope. So full of hope that my heart can't contain it. I see it as a promise for those who seem so far from God, so far from redemption. I'm reminded that God is in the business of doing the impossible. It shows my heart what pursuing love through obedience looks like. It walks in the exact opposite of fear. In boldness and obedience to love, great things can happen, my friends. Jesus is calling us into love, to walk opposite of fear, and call everyone we meet into this love that we have inherited. I am blind. He lay on his bed. What has happened to me? What will become of me? Oh God, have mercy, have mercy. Zealous was a man of great renown. Fear went before him. Anguish was always at his heels. Lawlessness had erupted throughout the land. Who was there but he to carry out the justice of the law? There required consequence for their actions. He packed his bags. He folded the letters on top. I will bring back every lawless man and woman. They will come to know the penalty for their choices. He set out. The journey would be long. By foot, it would be days before he reached the city. Would they know of his coming? Would they be prepared? I will go in and seek out the traitors. I have the letters. I know their names. Zealous lay on the ground. Dirt had covered his face. It had made its way into his mouth. Oh, it was so bright. The light had flooded the earth. It was so powerful that it had knocked him to the ground. Why do you slay me? He had heard the voice. It was a faceless voice full of terror and awe. Who had it belonged to? Where had it come from? The voice spoke again. I am he, the one you have been slaying. The truth you have been denying. Go and wait for me. I am blind. Zealous lay on his bed. What has happened to me? What will become of me? Oh God, have mercy, have mercy. In the other part of the city, a man, faithful, sat quietly. Go to him. He is chosen to do many great things in the name of hope and truth. Faithful sat. Sweat began beading on his brow. He knew this obedience may cost him his life. But what if? What if the voice had touched him? There was only one way to know. Again, the voice said, go to him. He is meant to carry adoption to the orphans. He will know the cost of my love. Faithful walked the streets to the end where the blind man, zealous, lay in his bed. Faithful looked at him in disbelief. This is the man that has killed my brothers and sisters. He has been reduced to nothing. Oh God, have mercy. Faithful sat down. I am here, zealous. You have carried fear with you. The voice spoke to me so that you may know the light. The Redeemer has bought your disgrace with his life and given you his spirit. Open your eyes, my brother. Zealous sat up. Water was poured over his body. The flesh was gone, but the spirit remained. The man that had come to him, that had spoke of life and spirit, had seen to his food and drink and then had left. Lord, who am I that you would use me? Cried Zealous. The voice replied, you will gather the kings. You will call to the orphans. You will tell them of my love. Paul, you will carry my promise to those of no inheritance. You will preach adoption for the fatherless. So tonight, my friends, is the eve of Jesus going to the cross. Tonight is the night that he sweat blood because of the anguish that he faced as he looked what was before him. It was no naive love, my friends. He had counted the cost long before he arrived at this place. He chose obedience to a love that would cost him everything. Tonight was his chance to choose his own way, to choose not to love. Instead, he chose love. He chose the most difficult path to bring us back to him, to call us into the inheritance that was rightfully his. He chose to die so that we might live. This is the impossible love of God. It redeems our brokenness. You may open your eyes if they are closed. Tomorrow is the day that he died for the people who scorned him. Jesus knew the cost. He also knew the reward. He forgave them as he hung dying. He set aside his will so that the Father could love us fully, so that there would be nothing to separate us from him. This is the impossible love of God, that it forgives. Sunday is the day that his love was made whole. Sunday is the day that love rose from the grave. It didn't end at the death of love, but the rebirth of love. It is through him that we live. This is the gospel, my friends, that love has pursued us from the foundations of the world. It has never stopped pursuing us. He pursued us through the birth of his Son. He pursued us through the death of his Son on the cross. He pursues us still. It is through us, my friends, that we extend the love of God to every created person on earth. This is the impossible love of God, that it would use us to bring his kingdom to earth. What should our response be to this love? The impossible was made possible through Jesus. There is nothing holding us back from him. The love that we carry is not a naive love. It counts the cost. It weighs the possible outcomes. The love we carry must be carried to everyone. It pursues the unwanted, the outsiders, the oppressors, the victims. We are called to do many great things, but the greatest of these is love. So we're just going to have a response time to what the love of God has called us into and what he is calling us to do from here. And let's just sit and wait in this place of love on the eve that Jesus went to the cross. And let's contemplate the sacrifice and the hope that was found in that place. And let's dare to hope that we can bring hope to others. That we're not stuck in this place where we're like, Jesus loves me, but that Jesus loves everyone. And that he died for all, and he calls us to take that news to the world. So let's just worship, love the God who died for us and rose for us and continues to pursue us. Thank you.